Hey, I'm Brett McLaughlin, and I am an editor at O'Reilly Media. I'm sitting here with Garth Braithwaite, and I know you do writing. You've done the Flex 4 cookbook for O'Reilly. I know you do co-author. Okay,
yeah, I got to take full credit.
You would if you could. You do coding, right? You sort of full-time work for Rain as the director of user experience as a digital agency, and a lot of Flex and other things you're doing there.
Right.
I also know that you podcast for RIA Radio.
Yes.
And solve Rubik's Cubes. I think that's quickly becoming one of the most famous things about you, and I'm happy to promote that.
Okay.
And today I actually hear that in addition to Flex, we're doing server-side stuff. So we're delving. Are we delving out of Flex, or tell me exactly how this plays? Because I think the conception is Flex is client-side.
Right.
What are we even doing here?
Right. So yeah, it is. It's a very heavy client side.
Okay.
We're able to do some extremely amazing things on the client side. Mm-hmm. But a client-side application by itself is pretty boring. You want to have some server-side integration.
Okay.
And most of the time, it's a big portion of it is actually your server-side. So we're talking about how we're going to communicate between the two.
Okay.
And there's some tools that are there for us to facilitate better communication.
And these are called services in the Flex 4 kind of nomenclature?
Yeah. And we're going to actually be taking some look at an example of a backside. We'll be dealing with some PHP.
Okay.
But it is just an example. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can be doing for your back end.
Right. And then here's the million-dollar question. Do we start with the client, or do we start with the server? What are we doing today?
Well, we're going to start with the client. That we already know how we want to display the data. Mm-hmm. That kind of helps for us to dictate exactly what we want to get from the back end.
Okay, so we're looking at the client first.
Right, but ultimately, I mean, what's really nice if you have a team of people, you probably have two separate teams, client side and back end. But
so we're going to start out on the client side team.
Yeah, we're going to start out client side.
All right.
So we've got some prep already done, and we're gonna see how we can integrate that.
Cool. Let's get going. Working with server side here. So what is our client side app? I guess it's a Flex 4 app on the client, and then we're going to interact with a server on the back end?
Exactly. Okay. So we've got, here in the Flex 4 app, we've got the data coming in from a server. We're going to look at bringing some XML data and actually populating.
So what on here is dynamic versus what is sort of pre-stock style
baked
and so
in,
forth?
Right.
Yeah.
So obviously the navigation and the title and the logo and all that stuff, that's already built in. That's just embedded into the application.
And we looked at those in the Skinning Flex 4 applications video, and then also the creating apps with Spark components.
Exactly.
So if people haven't seen this and are interested, they can check that out.
Right. So the actual data that's coming in from the XML, at least on this view right now, we've got the episode title, the guest name, the description of this episode, the tags.
And all that's pulled from the server?
That's all being pulled in by XML.
Okay.
Also what's being pulled in is actually the image source.
Oh, okay.
So it's a URL to where this image is. And that's all being pulled in from XML.
Okay.
On the guests here, it's actually the same XML data that's being pulled in.
Okay.
And we actually linked it in with their Twitter.
Okay.
So when they click on it, it should bring up their Twitter account.
Got to have Twitter integration if you're at all cool these days.
Right. So Doug Winning will get tons of followers now. The hosts, this actually we're going to be pulling in the data the same way as well. Well, we're going to be pulling in the data, but we're actually going to be using a different format for bringing in that data.
Okay.
So we'll
not XML here?
Not XML here. And then finally with the contact, we're actually going to look at sending the form.
Okay. So I know that if people have been following along, it looks like you've made some changes to the look and feel, the skin. So I know we'll have the code available for download. So I guess if someone has come through the sort of building apps and the skinning apps, download the code for this to catch up with where we are, right?
Right. And a lot of the stuff that is done that's a little bit different that I'm not going to walk through, all of it is covered. The concepts are covered in the skinning video. So if you want to figure out exactly what's going on, you can go hunt through my code and see what I did, but there shouldn't be anything new in there.
So before we actually completely dig in, show us the running version now, because this is the complete version. Where's our starting point for this?
So our starting point should look pretty similar, but we don't have any data coming in yet.
Okay, so you've pulled out the mocked up kind of episodes, and I know we didn't have guests and hosts in the Skinning Flex 4 applications video.
Right, and the skins are all ready to go.
Okay.
But because we don't have any data coming in, we're not displaying it. But again, nothing new in that skinning.
And then what about the contact form? Is that still there?
It is. It is, again, a little bit slightly skinned here.
You've got a custom button.
And I changed it white instead of the gray box. We could go further with it even.
Okay.
But for the reasons of what we're doing here, this is perfect.
Okay. So what's first? I assume grabbing some data to work with?
Yeah. So we're going to start with actually pulling in this episode data.
Okay. Let's look at that.